Hello and welcome back to another video. This is the 8th episode of story in which before his death, Minato had created a tool that was meant to succeed the Hiraishin. But now that he's passed it on to his kid, what will Naruto do with the power to control time and space? Please smash the like and subscribe buttons. Let's get started. Danzo, said Hiruzen, giving his former teammate his respect. Hiruzen, he replied back. Then spotting the extra, who is she? No one of real consequence, Hiruzen assured. She will not be partaking in this meeting in any form or way, stressing the last part causing Kushina to cringe a bit while giving a strained chuckle internally. Looking to all the elders in the room, Kushina's eyes fell on the crippled-looking man as her gaze narrowed a bit. This wasn't the first time she had met Danzo, but frankly she didn't really like him as something about the man reeked of an uncomfortable aura. Like her predecessor Mito who came before her, she shared the ability with the Kyuubi to sense the emotional presence of the people around her. Just being around Danzo, he didn't feel anything like Hiruzen as something ominous and unpleasant surrounded him. Even now she sensed negative intent coming from him. But if he tries anything I'll definitely stop him for sure, Kushina thought confidently. But before discussing the next Hokage, there are a few affairs that first needs to be discussed, said Danzo. Agreed, said Koharu and Hamura giving a nod to this. Starting first, Danzo continued, concerning our recently filled prison wards, we should make an example to the sand and sound by executing all the prisoners and show to them that we will not tolerate such acts of aggression without consequences. With the Ichibi in our possession, it brings us a most grand opportunity to extract the beast to be used for our benefit. I cannot condone that, Hiruzen instantly rebutted. It has already been made fact that Orochimaru orchestrated this travesty as Suna was caught up within his web of deceit. Killing prisoners is hardly a humane way to behave, especially when our goal is to promote peace between the villages. Aside from that, we have recently come to learn that they have captured one of our own while he was investigating the suspicious activities that were going on. I believe it's in our interest not to do something so brash if we want to save his life. Hey 8? Danzo questioned. Irrelevant, he is but one life in comparison to the hundreds we were able to capture. Are you possibly considering something as absurd as negotiating the life of one for the hundreds we have? You have grown far too soft, Hiruzen, Danzo then said, to which he looked to the two other elders. I agree, stated Hamura. They must be made an example of. They must all die to show all the villages that we should not be trifled with and that we will not show weakness in any form. There is no point to allowing them to live, said Koharu. We have showed our humility long enough. It's time to bring this nonsense to a close. The old Hokage's eyes became shaded underneath his hat as he folded his hands in front of him. I will take this under advisement. You will decide this now, then said Danzo in a sharper tone. Be more reasonable. There is no need to have these prisoners. If they cannot be converted to our side, then we have no use for them and should be put to death. Hiruzen remained silent for a moment to absorb what was said to him. I understand your point. Their execution shall be scheduled if our top interrogator is unable to convince them to shift their allegiance to us. When possible, our top seal experts will begin to extract the Ichibi if their Jinchuriki is unwilling to be converted to us. Danzo gave simple nod to this. On the subject of Jinchurikis, I believe it to be wise to retract Naruto Uzumaki's promotion from Chunin back to Genin. With his Chunin status, he will have more freedom on missions and more liberties outside the village. I believe this to be a mistake, as the Kyuubi that resides inside of him to be too much of an important asset to be allowed to leave the village beyond a certain point. He is far too great of a military power to be let out of our sight, as the demon fox is the strongest of the 9 bijus and should remain within the safety of our custody. And what would you suggest? Hamura questioned, sensing this was going somewhere. With the boy's increasing proficiency in controlling the beast's powers, I believe he would better serve Konoha by being placed under Anbu care. But more specifically under my tutelage. If memory serves correctly, as Koharu thought carefully about this, your Roots program should no longer be in existence. With this recent invasion, all the more reason why you should bring Roots back. If my special Umbu were around, this invasion would have never occurred as the threat would have been silenced even before reaching our doorstep. Your point is quite valid, said Hiruzen. If Naruto is growing in power, he needs a proper teacher and environment to help hone his skills. You are indeed a splendid choice, Danzo, but your Roots program will still continue to remain disbanded. The old crippled grimaced a bit as he narrowed his eye to this. Very well, but on to others matters. With so many of Sand and Sound ninjas in our custody based on overall demographics of their villages, we have effectively taken away the majority of their military strength for both these villages. If we decide to invade Sand and Sound, there will be little to oppose us with no fewer than a handful of Chunin and Jonin level ninjas. With this in mind, if we muster our forces effectively, we can take both villages, claiming their territory as ours, allowing us to expand Konoha's influence. The two other elders gave a nod to this, to which Hiruzen subsequently agreed as well. From there, other trivial matters were discussed which covered many of the dynamics of Konoha's functionality, such as the usage of funding, allocation of resources, and prioritizing of duties. But after a few hours or so of talking, let us break for a moment and then reconvene when we are rested a bit, as we shall then discuss who my next successor shall be. Giving an agreeing nod, the elders departed for a bit to stretch their legs, to which Kushina followed as she began to wander around outside the Hokage building to get some fresh air. This has proven to be a rather productive meeting. Even if I don't like his aura and the fact of how creepy he is, he does raise a lot of valid points, and to think that my son is going to be trained by him. What an honor. But after saying all that, why do I feel like something is off? Never mind. It's probably something stupid anyways. You are pretty stupid, aren't you? Kushina's eyes twitched at this as her lips turned to a frown as she recognized that voice from anywhere. So he wants to talk, huh? Inner world walking within the infinite plane of her subconsciousness, Kushina slowly walked along it until she arrived to the creature who called out to her. Standing before the imprisoned beast, the redhead held her serious face as she was none too pleased with talking to the Kyubi. What do you want? She asked in a neutral tone. Ever since the time this monster was placed inside her soul, the word hate could not come to close to describing what she felt for it. However, with the recent conversation she had with her son, she'd at least try to be more receptive to the bijou. Albeit very hard, but she will try nonetheless. You really are stupid, the Kyubi grinned. You haven't noticed it all at one bit, have you? Are you here to waste my time? I don't have much patience to entertain you. So why don't you go away now? The fox's grin then dropped as he looked seriously to Kushina. This is very important that you need to listen now and get this through your thick skull, as you were never one for learning quickly. Her eye twitched a bit at the fact that Kyubi was insulting her. Then speak, you stupid fox. I don't want to spend any more time with you than I have to. The demon fox growled a bit as he didn't like being insulted either by her. But settling back down, trying to keep a level head, that man Danzo. You can't possibly trust him. Of course I don't. That guy gives everyone around him the willies. Not to mention the negative intent I keep sensing from him keeps nudging at me. Then don't you find it a bit strange that you're so easily giving your son to him without so much a thought of disapproval? Yeah, but Danzo will make a great teacher to Naruto. Fool, the Kyubi roared, blowing up Kushina's hair a bit. Think about it. If you were of a right mind, you would not be so compliant to whatever that man is saying. None of you would. What are you talking about? As Kushina eyed the fox carefully. You're not suggesting he's brainwashing us somehow, are you? How stupid do you think I am? I've been watching him the entire time. He hasn't, since the time we entered the room and exited, used any form of genjutsu. Even for the argument that I might have missed it, Jizan or the other elders would have easily noticed it if it were happening. It's not a genjutsu you can sense through normal methods. It seems the only way to escape this genjutsu is by knowing it's being casted on you. What are you talking about? As Kushina was getting more impatient. Get to the point of what you're trying to say. That man. He's used a Sharingan eye and instantly casted a genjutsu on you, all giving you the idea to be more accepting of what he says. Upon hearing this, one of her eyebrows arched. Are you saying he's like Kakashi and has an eye implanted in his head? Then placing her hand to her chin, but now that I think about it, he could easily hide it with those bandages on his head. But then she snapped back, looking to the fox with scrutinizing eyes. But then there is a hole in what you're saying. If what you say is true, then why aren't you affected? You share my senses, so you shouldn't be able to escape the genjutsu either. The Kyuubi then gave a low snarl at this. I recognize the stink of an Uchiha's chakra or technique anywhere. Once that man entered the room, I made sure that anything he did wouldn't work on me. Aren't we touchy about the Uchihas? Kushina said a bit sarcastically, which earned her a growl from the fox, as she was somewhat aware of the twisted relationship it shared with the clan. But then switching back to her serious demeanor. I do agree that something does seem off, as she placed a hand over her heart. I know of the kinds of things Danzo is connected to, as I would normally never allow Naruto to get involved with. This ache deep down is telling me that what he's saying is wrong, even though my mind is saying the opposite. But even if what you said is true, I then ask, why would you care? I know you care nothing for humans, and even less so for the well-being of Konoha. So why help? The Kyuubi remained silent to this as he looked down to his red-headed Jinchuriki. Thinking about it, the thought of Naruto crossed his mind, as well as the encounter he had with his future self. After what seemed like a decent amount of time, I have my reasons. Something you wouldn't understand. Whatever, as Kushina soon returned back to the real world. Konoha, Hokage's office. After a brief recess, everyone reconvened to talk about who the fifth Hokage would be. As of right now, I am considering my old students Jiraiya and Tsunade as possible candidates for the position of Hokage. Is there any additions or objections to the choices I have made? No, said Hamura. No, said Koharu. I do have an addition I'd like to make, said Danzo. Oh. And who would you consider to replace me? The old crippled closed his eye for a moment in contemplation before reopening it. I believe I should replace you as the next Hokage, which earned him a surprised look from everyone in the room. No disrespect to your former students Hiruzen, but with your retirement Konoha needs an experienced and dependable leader after the travesty that had occurred. If I were to be placed in charge, I can assure that the objective of keeping Konoha safe will be achieved with the highest proficiency, as no threat will come here ever again. You bring a valid point, said Koharu. In times like these, we need a strong military leader to guide us. With your splendid war record, Hamura continued, this village's safety could not be in better hands. Hiruzen gave an approving nod to this. Indeed, with my retirement I'm going to need an experienced leader to ensure the safety of Konoha and its citizens. Although I can reference you into candidacy, the final say of Hokage will come from the Fire Daimyo. That will not be a problem, as Danzo gave a rare smile. I believe I will have no problem convincing him to make me the next Hokage. No. The group of elders, disturbed by the comment, looked to the woman who said it. I believe you're being rude, said Koharu. You were not invited to be a part of this meeting, as the only reason you're here is by the word of the Hokage that you wouldn't be a disturbance. Your presence has now become unwelcomed, then said Danzo with a bit of a glare in his eye. Leave. No, Kushina then said again, standing up now. This is all wrong. None of this is making sense. Sit down, said Hiruzen, trying to calm her sudden irrationality. Please recall that you promised not to interfere in this meeting. I can't stay silent anymore, as the hot-blooded habanero felt her anger rising. Initially she didn't want to pay it much mind, but what the Kyuubi said was true. Walking back into this meeting, she wanted to prove the Kyuubi wrong, as she could then rub it back in his face with a great level of satisfaction. But testing his theory, it became all too clear to her that she and more than likely that the others were under a genjutsu. Thinking about the course of the meeting, it was difficult to trace the genesis of her thoughts back to their point of origin. But the determining factor was Danzo. As he continued to speak, thoughts that were not her own began contradicting her normal flow of thinking, as never in a million years would she ever consider such a thing. Granted, it wasn't much proof to go on. But there was one way to find out for certain, as she dashed at him intent on ripping the bandages off his face. Before anyone could react, Umbu was on her like white on rice as they restrained her before she could make it another inch closer. "It would appear your guest was trying to attack me, Hiruzen," said Danzo calmly with a slight hint of smugness in his tone. "My deepest apologies for her brashness. I shall have a word with her later after this meeting has been concluded." "You don't understand," Kushina exclaimed, trying to struggle her way out of the Umbu's hold. "This is wrong. Nothing here is what it seems. You're getting out of line now. Umbu, please escort her out to give her time to cool her head." "Yes, Hokage-sama." Kushina let out a low growl, as she knew at this point she was defeated as the Umbu began dragging her out. Of course she couldn't openly accuse without any proof of any sort, let alone an elder of Konoha, of such a crime. So all she could do now was resign herself as she relaxed following the Umbu out. "Yeah, right," as a gleam shined in her eye, to which flicking around, she only had one shot to get this right, so she had to make this count before she was subdued by the Umbu again. Choosing her point of materialization, one of her spiked chakra chains popped out, hitting her target dead center as it ripped open the bandages covering his head. However, that wasn't the only thing she ended up taking, as she took a bit more than she intended with ripping off the bandages that covered his arm. Almost instantly the Umbu were right on her. However, it didn't stop her or anyone else in the room from seeing what she had uncovered. "What have you done?" as Kushina's eyes were stretched open in shock. Now before everyone to see, the old crippled ninja was not as crippled as he seemed. But more so was his grotesque image, as several Sharingan eyes were implanted into his unnaturally discolored right arm, with another Sharingan in his right eye socket in its Mangekyo state. "That Tomo configuration. That's Shusui's eye," said Hiruzen as all the pieces started to come together, as realization not only dawned on him but his other two teammates as well. Koharu and Hamura now stood up in anger as they looked to him. "All this time you've had one of Shusui's eyes. You've been using Kodo Amatsukami on us, haven't you?" To which another pause then occurred. Thinking about the chronology of things, the Uchiha massacre took place 7 years ago. It was around the same time Shusui died, as forensics suggested his eyes were missing, which was assumed destroyed upon his death. But knowing the power Shusui's eyes had, and if they were implanted 7 years ago, this then created some disturbing and terrifying imagery. If Danzo could really use Kodo Amatsuki so freely, then for 7 years he could have very well been manipulating Konoha to his machinations, as there is no telling if anything they've ever done was truly of their own free will and choice. Sparing not even a second longer, "Seize him immediately," to which more Umbu appeared following their orders to apprehend Danzo. "Damn," he cursed. Of course he knew that doing such a thing to the other elders and the Hokage himself could very well be considered treason. But by the way he saw it, he was the necessary evil that needed to exist to keep Konoha safe. If not for him, Konoha could very well have been a burning crater in the ground, with how many potential enemies the Leaf Village had. Even so, of knowing his wrongdoings, he found it despicable that he was going to be imprisoned for doing what was necessary. If this was how it was going to be, he'll go underground to continue his work. One day they would be begging why they never listened to him, as it would then be his time to take over. Looking around, there were plenty of Umbu standing in his way. But with the Sharingan eyes he had, escape should have been effortless, as there was no one in the room, not even Hiruzen, who could stop him from leaving. But before he could even flinch, everyone's movements were paralyzed as several chakra chains shot out from the floor, ceiling, and walls, entangling everyone in the room like a spider's web. But before long, chain by chain began to disappear as the mysterious woman from earlier walked through them, forcing them to disperse as any other extra chains vanished, leaving only a completely entangled Danzo slightly suspended above the floor. These chains. It can't be, as Danzo was truly shocked at this completely impossible event. You should know very well what these chains are capable of. Once I've caught you, there is no way you can escape without my permission, as all your movements and abilities are sealed, as I assure you that this has been tested against Uchiha abilities before. Just in the event you manage to, I've already set up a barrier around, sealing us all in. So there is no way for you to get out. She then put her hands together as she began to weave some seals. Before long she slammed her fingertips around his right eye, giving a twisting motion as sutras encircled around the Sharingan, compressing and shrinking until all that was left was a pupil-less eye. She quickly proceeded in sealing the other eyes that were grafted in his arm. "What have you done?" as Danzo was outraged, as he was not only blind in his right eye but all the eyes on his right arm had become pupil-less. "Do you realize what you have done?" "Yes," Kushina said simply. "I took away your stolen power to manipulate." Then, giving a soft exhale, she looked him in the eye. "You still don't understand, do you? I know what your ideals are, and I can understand the desire to protect your home. But you don't seem to understand something. Altruism is a fine quality to have in any shinobi or human for that matter. But to throw away life like that. I don't think you ever understood that the village is nothing without its people. A home can be replaced, but never lives. Who the hell are you?" Kushina smirked at this as she got right in his face. "Wouldn't you like to know?" And with that the Umbu soon carted him away, as order was soon restored back to the office. "But before long, you. Who are you?" Koharu questioned. "Me?" as Kushina pointed to herself, trying to act dumbly. "I'm no one important really." "Do not lie to me," she then said harshly. "That technique, I've only known one person in this village to ever use it, and she is dead already with her soul sealed away with the other Hokages. So who are you? And don't you try to lie to me." Upon this accusation, she was starting to give off nervous sweat. Using her technique was purely out of impulse, as she wanted to stop Danzo from scheming, as she didn't take possible future repercussions into consideration. But looking to the glaring eyes around her, she knew she was in hot water now. As her husband explained, it was best that they kept a low profile until they could return back to their own time. If discovered by some unsavory people, there was no telling what kind of disaster could occur, especially for their son. Seeing the impatient glaring eyes around her, Kushina bit her lip slightly, as she knew she had to say something soon, or else she might end up being shipped to the prison ward. But quickly coming to her aid, "That is not important right now," Hiruzen interjected adamantly. "What started as a peaceful meeting has revealed a possible deceit that has been going on for almost 7 years. I think it would be better to focus our attention in unraveling this mess that has occurred." Hamura gave a nod to this. "Agreed, there is much work that needs to be done, to which the discussion of the next Hokage can be postponed for now, as everyone excluding the Sandaime and his guest left to start the cleanup/investigation. Thanks, you saved me back there, and I'm sorry for the rude interruption, Jizan," said Kushina as she then dropped her henge. "On the contrary," Hiruzen smiled, "I should be thanking you, as without you we would have never uncovered this treachery, to which I'm certain you'll tell me how you did it." Kushina gave a delighted nod to this, but then turned to a frown as she looked to the elder Hokage. "Jizan. About those Sharingan eyes. What has happened to the Uchiha clan?" giving a saddened look. "During this entire week I haven't seen a single Uchiha besides Sasuke. Where is everyone? What happened to my friend Mikoto?" Hiruzen gave a troubled look as he took a deep inhale of his smoking pipe before exhaling, as he then took a seat at his desk. "What I tell you here does not leave this office beyond Minato. Do you understand? Fire country, evening time, I hope everything back home is okay," thought Naruto. "I wonder why Mom wanted Hinata-chan to stay with her. It had only been a few minutes since his father Hiration to Mount Myaboku, which was where the frog summons lived. Of course his father was invited there a long time ago, as he knew the way there, as at this time he was talking to the head toad about allowing him entrance. But standing around waiting for his dad to return, his mind began to wander. He thought about his dad's brief explanation. Minato wanted him to learn Sage Chakra under the masters of Myaboku. Accordingly, Sage Chakra was supposed to be like some sort of energy of nature which he would learn to absorb and utilize somehow. Although he didn't understand it, his dad made it quite clear that if he learned Sage Chakra, it would be better than doing 1,000,000 push-ups in a day. Furthermore, Jiraiya had learned this ability long ago, which contributed in making him one of the legendary ninjas Konoha has ever had. But learning Sage Chakra can't be that hard, can it? I mean, Ero-sanin managed to do it. If a perv like him could do it, then so can I. Then in the next instant, Minato appeared along with a familiar orange toad. Gamakichi. It's been a while. How have you been? Great, the little frog replied. So I hear that you want to have your shot in becoming a sage. I guess so, as Naruto rubbed the back of his head, not really certain how to respond, as he still wasn't quite sure what was going to happen. Anyways, I'm here to formally invite you to the homeland of the toads. Let us be off then, as Minato placed his hand on his son's head before teleporting them away. Mount Myaboku, wow, was all Naruto could say upon arriving to these foreign lands. Looking around, he was surrounded by giant plant life one would normally see at a pond. Essentially this place could have been considered a toad's paradise. Although he had to tug his jacket a bit as the environment around him was quite humid even at night. I'm sorry for the late hour, Minato apologized as he looked to a very small old-looking frog. But this is something that needs to be accomplished as soon as possible, to which I apologize again, Fukusaku-san, for disturbing you and the great sage at this time. It's no problem, as Fukusaku waved him off while rubbing his beard. But then looking to Naruto, the old toad gave a smirk. So you're Naruto then? I've heard much about you from little Jiraiya and your father. What? Ero-sanin talks about me? Ero-sanin, a bit confused to the name, but soon laughed upon understanding. It's quite fitting indeed, Fukusaku hollered, holding his stomach to how funny it was. But calming back down, he looked to Naruto with an absolutely serious expression. Now I've heard that you want to learn the ways of the Toad Sage, am I correct? Yes, Naruto answered with confidence, even though he was still clouded with uncertainty. Then do you understand the risks entailed? For the path you have chosen will not be an easy one. Well, what's the worst that could happen? Failure to properly control senjutsu will result in death, Minato answered, to which Naruto looked to him bug-eyed. This is why I had great reservation in even considering this idea, as out of all those who tried to attain the power of the sage, only Jiraiya-sensei was able to accomplish this. For the reward is only equal to that of the risk. But this is the only thing I can think of in such short notice. Even so, a week's worth of time is already asking for too much, as Jiraiya-sensei needed more time to learn senjutsu. But if you decide not to, I'll try to think of a way to square things off with Tsunade-sama and try to convince her to come back to Konoha. Naruto then gave a troubled look as his gaze then shifted to the ground. There were many things that he needed to take into consideration. It wasn't uncommon for him to take risks to attain greater abilities or skills, as he's been doing it for years, albeit sometimes not his choice. Ero-sanin, he thought sourly. However, he had quite a bit riding on this. He needed to win, as at the most Tsunade had to return back to Konoha to help heal the injured. Additionally, if he lost, he'd be her slave for the rest of his natural life, which left bitterness in his mouth, as frankly serving a drunken lady day in and out would have been a nightmare. But on the upside, if he succeeded, he'd be one step closer to becoming a ninja everyone knew and acknowledged. So the idea of dying would have to take a back seat as usual, as there was no way in his mind that he was going to fail, to which he was going to make the deadline. No. I'm going to do it. I'm going to become a sage and beat that old lady. There is no way I'm going to fail. Fukusaku and Minato could only look on surprise to the young blonde's overwhelming confidence. Even with the great possibility of failure, the high chance of death, and the unreasonable timeline, it didn't deter Naruto one bit. Definitely a trait he had inherited from both his parents, thought Fukusaku admirably. Very well, we'll begin first thing tomorrow morning, giving a small smile. So follow me as I'll show you where you'll be staying for the time being. Following from behind, something struck Naruto as odd as he looked up to his dad. Earlier you said that Ero-sanin was the only one who had ever learned senjutsu successfully. Did you never try to learn it? No, Minato answered rather simply. Huh. If senjutsu is awesome, why didn't you learn it? You're the legendary ninja of Konoha. Something like learning senjutsu ought to be child's play to someone like you, Dad. Well, I was offered the chance to learn once by Jiraiya-sensei, but senjutsu doesn't quite work with the way I always done things. For you see, Naruto, I've always been a speed type, as my tactics are revolved around hitting them fast and hard before moving on to the next objective. It's kind of a habit that I've developed over the years of battle of not wanting to waste valuable time against any opponents. Is that why you developed the Rasengan, in order to shorten the time frame between attacks? Yes, for just the time to mold your chakra to the technique you want could get you killed, as that's valuable time you using up. With senjutsu, it requires time to charge up and balance the necessary energies in order to make it effective, which is time consuming. Granted, this problem has already been rectified through Jiraiya-sensei's method. But it's just something not for me. Naruto gave a thoughtful nod as what his father said made perfect sense. But if senjutsu was really as awesome as everyone said it was, then he would find a way to make it work. But while we're here, Naruto, I'm going to try my best to teach you everything I know in this short amount of time. So be prepared, as this is going to be a rather grueling week. The young blonde smirked at this, giving a nod, feeling himself getting pumped up. I'll give it my all. Standing within the courtyard, Naruto and Minato faced off against each other. However, the elder blonde seemed cool and relaxed by comparison to his son, as he didn't take a fighting stance as he stood passively before Naruto. When you're ready, kiddo. Not even waiting for another word, Naruto sprinted in with a straight punch, to which Minato easily sidestepped. Not wanting him to get away, the blonde Jinchuriki followed through with a wheel kick, as he soon let out a barrage of combos with whatever he saw open to attack with whatever he could dish out. However, no matter how fast he moved, he was nowhere closer to hitting his dad, as he constantly dodged him by a hair length. Now it wasn't because he was anywhere near as fast as his father, it was just a point of not wanting to waste energy unnecessarily during this skirmish. You've got to stop thinking so linearly, Naruto. If your opponent is physically greater than you in both speed and strength, this is where strategy becomes a key factor in deciding who the victor is. Yeah. Then how about this? As the young blonde made a cross seal, as 3 Kage Bunshins exploded into existence, flanking the yondaime as his 4 corners were covered. Following the plan, one clone jumped for his legs while the other 2 went for his arms. Seeing it coming, Minato jumped out of the way as the 3 clones ended up piling on top of each other. Not a bad idea. But you need to be trickier than that. Like the other 3 Bunshins I made. What? Looking himself over, 3 pieces of paper were stuck to him as they soon exploded into smoke, turning back into his son as they had successfully grabbed his legs and arms, anchoring him to the ground. Now our chance, as the 3 other clones dog piled on as more clones appeared to build more to the stack. After building such a huge pile of bodies, gotcha now, Dad, as the original approached, confident he had captured the yondaime. Pretty good, you really surprised me there. Hearing this, it caused Naruto to look to his right in astonishment to see his dad leaning against a tree, giving an amused smile. Your timing was really good, as I didn't even sense the tag. However, your dog pile gave me the opportunity to escape. It's never a good idea to lose sight of your opponent. So never be too excited to get the jump on them. Heh, as Naruto gave a scoff to this. Looks like I'm going to have to give it my all now. Let's see if you can handle that. Dispelling all but one clone, the Bunshin ran to the pond of oil, dabbing his finger in as it quickly took a seat, concentrating his energy as soon orange-like coloration appeared around his eyes. Upon completing this task, it dispersed, sending its chakra back to its original as the color around Naruto's eyes changed, to which his eyes became toad-like slits. How about round 2? Minato kicked off from the tree as he walked to this son as he gave a proud smile. It had only been 4 days, but his son had made some rather spectacular progress. But somewhat unbelievable at how fast he was learning, as he'd never even thought of using Kage Bunshin like that before. With this jutsu, his son was able to learn senjutsu from Fukasaku, while at the same time he taught him taijutsu and chakra theory. With so many Bunshins running around, his progress was rather staggering and almost alarming. At this point in time, he had even surpassed Jiraiya with his competency in senjutsu, as he was now recognized as the first true sage of Myaboku. Although he couldn't gather energy yet, he had a Bunshin currently sitting with Fukasaku at the spiky rocks learning how to. Additionally, his fighting skills were getting better. It was just a matter of building on top of them now, as he endowed his son with every little tip and trick he knew when it came to different combat situations. Giving a chuckle to himself, "Whenever you're ready, kiddo. Here I come then," Naruto exclaimed, kicking off the ground, going faster than what he was normally capable of, as the world around him felt so different. In a way, the very environment felt like extensions of his senses, as he could feel the breath of life of everything surrounding him. It was like he was nature itself. Just throwing his attacks, nature had become his weapons. What an incredible feeling. It's almost like truly being alive. But for this round, Minato knew he had to take this a bit more seriously. He had only seen his former teacher use this ability sparingly, which was mainly due to aesthetics reasons. However, he was quite aware of how formidable this power was, as he had seen his former master decimate enemies with this ability. For this reason, he had to move even more, as even dodging would not be enough. However, Naruto was not going to give him an easy time, as he was like a machine gunning for him non-stop, not even giving a second to think. Just from this exchange he knew his son was ready for any future challenges. But he still had so much more to teach. However, there is just never enough time, is there? But back to the fight, Naruto had created 2 Bunshins, as one stood in front as the other was helping his son. Most likely it's Rasengan. Upon completion they charged at him at full speed in a single file line. Just like what he did against Neji, his clones served as meat shields, as he would then push past them with a surprise Rasengan. Easily dispelling the clones, he saw what was coming next. So, forming his own Rasengan, being careful to match his son's power, he cancelled the opposing Rasengan. Spotting the forward momentum, the elder blonde glided, with his arm intercepting it in his hand, as he used his other hand to push Naruto's elbow up, unhinging his shoulder, unbalancing him completely from his center, to which he quickly followed through by throwing him over his shoulder to the ground, as Naruto's eyes reverted back to normal, ending his sage mode. Standing back up, rubbing his butt in soreness, "I guess I've got a long way to go till I'm at your level." "Don't worry," as Minato rubbed the top of his head. "You're getting there just fine," as Naruto gave a sheepish smile to this. "By the way, Naruto, that Rasengan you did. Who taught it to you?" "It was self-taught. Something you left in your notes, as it also talked about wanting to finish your Rasengan or something like that." Minato's brow arched at this peculiar piece of information. Strange. Why would I put the notes behind Rasengan in my research? But shaking his head to this, "Why do you use 2 hands to do it? Can't you do it with one yet?" "I need 2 hands to form it. It already takes a lot of concentration on my part just to make it. So that's why I use a clone to help me. It lessens the concentration I need, as I can keep my eyes on the fight without getting distracted. It's kind of like looking left and right at the same time, you know." The elder blonde blinked at this for a while. But suddenly it seemed like an epiphany had struck him, as he soon broke out into laughter. "Why didn't I ever see it before? It was right there staring me in the face. Such an elegant and simple solution to a difficult and complex problem. See what? What didn't you get? Calming back down, nothing Naruto, coughing a bit. I'll tell you about it later. But for now I need to go back to the city and get the parts one need to fix the watch. Just stay here for now and learn what Fukusaku has to teach you. Got it, Dad, and feeling one of his clones return, I'll be getting it eventually. Minato gave a nod to this as he transformed into his henge before teleporting away. Fire Country, City, late evening, it looks like I managed to collect everything I needed. I'll be able to get me and Kushina-chan home in no time. Walking down the business district, his attention was immediately grabbed by a familiar smell as he then spotted twin blonde pigtails peeking out from some curtains coming from a bar. Knowing exactly who it was, no, I should just walk away. I have meddled enough in this time as it is, as I should leave well enough alone. Taking another step, he stopped as he let out a heavy sigh. I'm such an idiot. Tsunade let out a soft sigh. For her, this was just like any other time for the last decade or so. Like many of these times, she'd be drowning her sorrows with either gambling during the day or heavy drinking at night. Dan. Nawaki, she muttered as she looked down in sorrow. You should really cut down on the drinking, Tsunade-sama. It's definitely not good for your health. The old medic jolted a bit in slight surprise as she looked to her side to see an old man taking his seat next to her. You're that envoy from Konoha, she said with a slight slur to her voice. What are you doing here? What about that little blonde brat? I was just taking a walk through town seeing to a few errands. As for Naruto, well, he's been working hard in his preparations to defeat you. I'd be worried if I were you, giving a soft chuckle to this. Tsunade gave a sharp scoff as she downed another cup of her sake. Worried about what? I can deal with that brat without breaking a sweat, as she poured herself another cup, downing it instantly. But slamming the cup against the bar, allowing the buzz to take over, she seemed lethargic as a thought crossed her mind. After a moment of silence, Tsunade spoke up, seeming a bit calmer now. That brat Naruto, seeming a bit cautious about what she was about to say. Is he who I think he is? Sensing what she was really asking, yeah, he's the fourth's kid. Figures, as Tsunade gave a small smile. Naruto. Only a name that old coot Jiraiya could possibly think of, as she took another drink. That little brat. I can definitely see them in him. The very best parts of both Minato and Kushina. He'll definitely grow to become one fine ninja someday. I probably should apologize to him later for insulting his father when he finds out. I think he will understand, said Minato calmly, trying to sound sympathetic. But giving a slight pause before continuing, Tsunade-sama. I understand why you find it difficult to return to Konoha. Don't you dare, she interjected, almost breaking the ceramic cup in her hand. Don't you dare try that sympathy crap with me. Don't you dare try to say you understand what I lost. Please calm down, Tsunade-sama, Minato said with a soothing tone. Giving a minute to allow tensions to ease, I'm not going to try and say I understand everything. It was war, a terrible time for everyone, with so many young lives lost due to vanity, greed, and hatred created by the darkest side of humanity. I too have witnessed war firsthand and have lost people to which I'd always question why wasn't I strong enough to save them or be there when they needed me most. But what I do understand about you, Tsunade-sama, is the pain. The guilt. The regret of always questioning the what if of things. What if I were there sooner? What if I was stronger, would they still be alive? But it's no good to dwell on the past. It only brings more suffering, trapping you in an endless cycle of despair. But giving a soft exhale, he spoke up once more after clearing his throat. Although they may be gone from this world, they will always live on in our memories, which we will always cherish. Tsunade's face contorted slightly as her lips curved downward, as her eyes appeared to water a bit, almost on the brink of tears. Then how did you move on with your life? How can you look at their gravestones without feeling all this emptiness? Minato gave a soft sigh as he folded his hands in front of him. If they loved you just as much as you loved them, then they would have wanted you to move on with your life. But most importantly, as he looked up in thought, they would want you to forgive yourself. The old medic looked down as tears started to stream on her cheeks, as it had been a long time since she really had to think about it. But it's up to you, Tsunade-sama. What I've said here tonight is purely what I think, as you can choose to take it or leave it. But all that I ask is that you take some consideration to what I have told you. As he got up to leave. You. Just who are you exactly? As Tsunade turned to see his retreating form. The elder blonde paused for a moment, as he then turned back, giving a warm smile. Just a ghost from the past, as he soon left, leaving the old medic to think about what was told to her. Fire Country, City. 3 days later, teleporting right in, Naruto and Minato under Henge walked towards the agreed area where the duel would be done. So how are you feeling, Naruto? Are you ready for this? Of course, as the blonde Jinchuriki was brimming with confidence, although I have to gather energy through my clones. Stupid fox, punching his stomach a bit, because of him Fukasaku and Shima can't fuse with me to supply me with nature energy. So it's the only way I can gather it without doing it myself. But I do have to admit it's a rather creative solution. Thanks. But then, closing his eyes for a moment, his face became dead serious. Dad. Do you really think this is enough? Don't think about such things. Just focus on the match and remember what you've learned. Keep this in mind and you'll be fine. Right, as Naruto returned back to his confident demeanor. I better get my bunshins ready then, creating 3 of them and sending to meditate. Arriving to the open area, Tsunade was waiting by a wooden table with her assistant Shizun standing behind her. I see you actually came. Let's see if you actually got any power in those tiny muscles of yours, as she placed her arm on the table ready to begin. I'll be kicking your ass soon, Granny, as Naruto took his seat, placing his arm on the table, taking her hand as he was revving to begin. Shizun then positioned herself as she placed her hand on top of theirs. Looking to both of them, making sure they were ready, she lifted her hand. Begin. Ah! Naruto roared as he pushed every bit of might he had in trying to slam his opponent's hand to the table. Tsunade, however, gave a mocking laugh to this as she put her other arm on the table to hold her head up as she looked amused to the young blonde. Is this really it? You probably couldn't even wrestle my pinky down if this is all you could muster, as she slowly started pushing him down on his side of the table just to embarrass him at how easily he was defeated. Expecting him to give a panicked look, the young blonde still kept his confident smirk. Something you find amusing, you little brat? Actually, as orange coloration appeared around his eyes, yeah, as he pushed back with everything he had, just almost slamming her hand on the table, but not quite, as it was just an inch away. Tsunade and Shizun looked on in utter shock and surprise. No way, they both thought. He can perform senjutsu. Up to date they had only known Jiraiya to be capable of this feat, yet here was a child capable of doing it, and even better as he still retained his human attributes. Impressive, Tsunade grinned as she tightened her chakra focus, pushing back until they were both evened out. This might actually turn out to be a rather interesting bet after all. Naruto grimaced at this. Damn. My first clone is about used up and I lost the element of surprise. What the hell am I going to do now? Feeling his sage mode coming to an end, he disabled his second clone to buy himself more time. What am I going to do now? Tsunade cringed as she gripped Naruto's hand tightly as she pushed against him. Quite impressive strength, as she had to use a fair amount of focus just to match him, but still that was not the same as really trying. But seeing things as they were, she figured she could strike up a conversation before crushing him. Hey brat, tell me. Why do you want to be Hokage? Why does it mean so much to you? Naruto gritted his teeth as his eyes narrowed, just trying to hold on. Because I want people to acknowledge me. I want to protect the village. But most of all, I want to protect the people who live there. People I care about. People I cherish. For this reason I want to be Hokage so I can be strong enough to protect everyone. The old medic looked on with some nostalgia at those words as they echoed to the core of her very being. Is that so? As she pushed against his hand, to which Naruto resisted in futile effort. No. I can't lose. People are counting on me to win. Just to make matters worse, his sage came to an end, meaning he needed to use up his third and last one. But even so, it was overly apparent that losing was inevitable. No. I can't think like that. I just need more power. I need to concentrate more power. Keeping them steady just for a brief moment, Naruto closed his eyes as he absorbed more nature energy, pushing himself to the very brink before it destabilized inside of him. It's now or never. Ah, he called in war cry as he put everything he had into this final run. Tsunade, surprised at the sudden burst of strength, was overtaken. At the moment her hand slammed the table, the furniture broke under the extreme force which concluded the battle. The old medic blinked to this in surprise before closing her eyes. Giving a soft chuckle. You definitely have great potential, Naruto. I apologize for my disrespect to the former Hokages. Then taking off her necklace, she placed it around Naruto's neck. You will definitely make a fine ninja someday, as she gave his forehead a peck. Naruto's smile widened as he soon cheered at his victory. Thanks, Boss-san. You really are a cool lady, as the over-ecstatic child soon started to run in circles to his victory lap. Careful, Naruto. You're wearing an antique, as Shizune soon chased after him. But watching them go, Minato stood next to Tsunade, making his voice just low enough for only her to hear. You let him win, didn't you? And what if I did? As she continued to watch the young blonde and her assistant run around. Why? Closing her eyes in thought, a small smile appeared as she reopened them as she saw a reflection of her brother and lover. For this last time. I'll believe once more in the will of fire. Minato warmly smiled to this. As soon as you get everything of yours together, we'll be off. After an hour or so of gathering their stuff, they met to an open area as the elder blonde took out his watch. Aren't we getting a move on? Tsunade questioned. If we go now we can make it to the next city by evening. Actually, I'm pretty sure my method is faster, as he activated his watch as they were all gone in a flash. Konoha, West Gate, suddenly reappearing within the forest near Konoha, Tsunade and Shizune could only gape at the sudden jump. Tsunade, the first to get her wits back, looked to the old man. This technique. I recognize it from anywhere. It's Minato's technique, Hiration. Just who the hell are you exactly? The old man, seeming whimsical now, gave her a strange smile. As I said before, I'm just a ghost from the past. Don't joke with me. Only Minato taught this technique to his personal guards. There is no way someone like you can possibly know it. Minato rubbed the back of his head as he figured this was going to happen. However, he shouldn't be staying in this time any further, as he needed to get back as soon as possible. So, just leave it for now, Tsunade-sama. In time perhaps Hiruzandano or Jiraiya-sama will tell you. Tsunade gave a disgruntled look, but for now decided to drop it. Entering Konoha, they were given a big greeting and cheers for the return of the slug Sannin, as she was immediately escorted to the Hokage's office, where she was briefed alongside her former teammate Jiraiya as soon it would be decided who the next Hokage would be. Departing from the crowds, Minato and Naruto found Kushina at a park bench happily talking with Hinata as they were discussing seals. Upon the approach of her son and husband, the red-headed Uzumaki's face dropped a bit as she knew what now must come next. It's time, isn't it? Yeah. It's time for us to go back home now. Why can't you stay? Naruto asked, rather saddened by this. I don't want you two to go, as he hugged them both. I don't want you two to leave me again. Naruto-kun, as Hinata couldn't find the right words to say to her friend. Minato and Kushina heart broke at seeing this. However, it had to be done. Come on, said the elder blonde. We'll take a short trip together. Naruto looked back to this friend. It's okay, as Hinata tried to give a reassuring smile. I'll wait here. So go be with your parents, to which he gave a nod too. Alright, hang on everyone, as Minato activated the watch. Namikaze's residence, 14 years ago, standing within the home, Naruto's parents dropped to their knees embracing their son as he returned it. But after a while they parted from each other as Minato created a few seals as he summoned a camera along with a stand post. Dad? Just something for you to remember us, said Minato. Giving a nod, Kushina took her seat at a chair as Naruto stood next to her. Setting the camera function on a timer, Minato stood behind his son as a moment later the camera flashed. So. When will I get a copy? Said Naruto trying to be light-hearted considering the difficulty of the situation. Don't worry, his father responded. You'll be getting it in time. Then removing the watch in his pocket, he stared at it for a moment before handing it to his son. Dad? I had great reserve if giving this to you. But now. I feel that you're responsible enough to be this watch's new keeper. Take it, it's yours now. As Naruto slowly took the watch as he held it in front of him, I don't know what to say. You've grown up to be a great ninja, Naruto. The very best your mother and I could have hoped for. But Naruto, understand the watch is different now. Different? How? If my timing is right, you'll understand. But most of the original functions of the watch have been removed. However, it still retains its ability to travel through time. So I can see you guys whenever I want, the young blonde said excitedly. Yes, but use it very sparingly. We don't want to corrupt the time stream with too many visits. Know that whenever you need us, we'll be waiting for you right here, smiled Kushina as she gave her son a deep hug. Just whenever you can, come by and say hello, okay? Naruto nodded to this as he soon stepped back. Making the calibrations as instructed by his father to the watch needing to ensure the previous jump incident didn't repeat itself, he was soon ready to depart. Thank you, I was so happy to meet you, he said endearingly. Know that. Mom. Dad, feeling a lump in his throat, I love you guys, as tears started to appear. Minato and Kushina too began to well up in tears. We'll be seeing you later then. Giving his final nod, he was gone as Naruto returned back to his own time. After a while in letting things settle down, the pair took their seats on the couch. For a while silence hung over them as neither of them were uncertain of what to say. But for Kushina, it was just too much to bear. She would die before even getting the chance to hold her son as he would be forced to grow up all alone by himself. Holding her stomach, she just didn't know what to do. Kushina-chan. Minato. There is still a chance for us. What? As Kushina shot off the couch looking to her husband in disbelief. I thought you said it was impossible. You said time was fixed. Yes, he slowly responded. It is true. However, that concept only applies to Naruto's perspective as that event has already happened in his time. But for us, time is still progressing as events are still occurring for us. Time can be rewritten. So we can still be with Naruto, as Kushina's tone held a glimmer of hope. Yes. And no, Minato responded as he tried to gather himself to what he had to say next. The watch is designed to stay in constant sync with our time. However, if we are successful, if we survive after Naruto's birth, we will have effectively changed our future. But we can't see Naruto again. I don't understand. Kushina exclaimed, shaking head wildly at this. Why won't we ever see Naruto again? Minato soon stood up as he looked to his wife, trying his best not to break down. In this case, time is like a river, and with it, it can break into different directions based on the choices we make in our lives. Our survival is the key point where our timelines will diverge, as our watches will no longer be in sync, as we can never see that Naruto again, as we will effectively be traveling a different path from him. But if we survive, as he placed his hand over Kushina's stomach, we can still be here to be with this Naruto. Tears then began to stream down the sides of Kushina's cheeks as she held her mouth trying to control herself. Is there really nothing we can do for him? There are a few things we can still do, which reminds me that I have to describe Rasengan in my notes and rig the watch for him to fix later. But don't forget Kushina-chan, as he gave her a reassuring smile. My watch can still travel through time and we still have 6 months before our timelines are no longer in sync. Does that mean, said Kushina rubbing her eyes dry. Yes, we can still be with him as he's growing up. But we can never show ourselves to him. Not until he comes to learn the truth on his own. I understand, as the redhead hugged her husband, to which he returned. Konoha, 7 years later from Minato's present, Naruto's birthday had come to an end as Hiruzen had left for the night. Feeling saddened by being alone once again, he soon heard another knock on his door. Opening it, his face lit up to see who it was. Ojizen. Obasan, he exclaimed happily at seeing the elderly pair. Happy birthday, said the old man who was Minato under Henge. Congratulations on turning another year older, said the old woman who was Kushina under Henge. I didn't think you'd come, said Naruto in a bit of a whiny voice. I knocked at your door. I was really worried you wouldn't be home again this time. I'm sorry, said Kushina petting his head. It's really difficult to always visit you, but trust me that we try to as much as we can. Here, as Minato took out a frog-shaped coin purse from his pocket. This is a birthday gift from the two of us. Naruto's eyes shined at this as he instantly took the gift and hugged it with all his might. I love it, he cheered. From now on I'm going to call you Gama-chan. The old pair gave a warm laugh to this before proceeding inside. Here, I'll help you clean up, said Minato as he sorted through the mess, separating garbage and laundry into their appropriate piles. I'll get started in preparing your meal for the week, said Kushina as she got everything together. How does ramen sound? Yay! Ramen, young Naruto cheered as the old pair gave another warm laugh too. Looking to the old couple, Naruto smiled as these were one of the few people that seemed to care that he existed. Although he didn't know when, he had known the pair ever since he could remember. Moving into the apartments, the elder couple treated him so kindly. Even though he was assigned a caretaker by the Hokage, there would have been weeks he'd go starving if the elder couple didn't come by to take care of him. For this he loved them dearly. However, it was rather difficult for him to see them. Even though they lived right next door, they never seemed to be home most of the time. But at least they did visit consistently whenever it was his birthday or a holiday. So Naru-chan, as Kushina continued with her task. What did you wish for this year? If I tell you then it won't really come true, said Naruto cutely. But if you can keep a secret, I think it will still come true, to which the elder couple gave a nod too. This year, giving a wide smile, I wish that I could have a friend. Kushina giggled at this. Oh Naru-chan, I have a feeling that it just might come true. Minato gave a nod to this as he continued his daunting task of cleaning up after a 7-year-old. But finally reaching a table, a peculiar piece of parchment caught his attention. Naruto, what is this about? What is? He questioned going to the table. This note here, it says you got 7 years worth of free ramen at Ichiraku. Do you know who sent this to you? No. Then do you know why? Yeah, it's on the back of the card. It says that for the 7 years worth of free ramen all I have to do is call Sasuke a jerk whenever I see him. I think it's a really good deal, as he folded his arms behind his head giving a sheepish smile. Naruto. You know that's not a nice thing to do. Kushina berated. Come on Obasan, as Naruto gave his fox-like face. I don't think it's that big a deal. He calls me a moron constantly anyways. The old woman could only give a tired sigh to this. Meanwhile Minato's concentration was on the note as it struck him as out of the ordinary. Closely examining it. This handwriting. It couldn't be. Konoha, Naruto's present time, Hinata waited patiently for the return of her friend, and right on cue a flash of light emerged as Naruto rematerialized in front of her. Is everything okay? She asked carefully. Remaining quiet for a bit, he looked to her. Although it was clear there was hurt in his eyes, he still tried to maintain himself. Yeah, Naruto said slowly, it's okay now. Just as the Hyuga heiress was about to say something further, they were interrupted by a male ninja. I have a package here for Naruto Uzumaki. The pair snapped at this as they looked to the snazzy dressed-looking man. A package for me? From who? According to the parasol, the yondaime was the one who sent it. Although very interesting that this was sent 14 years ago, specifically instructed to deliver this package on this exact day, on this exact time, and only to the person who'd answer to Naruto Uzumaki. Made a bet with a couple of guys that you wouldn't be here, but it seems like I lost, giving a strained chuckle. So sign here please and I'll be on my way. Signing for the package, allowing the male ninja to depart, Naruto popped it open to find a letter inside along with a key. Unsealing the letter, the young blonde began to read it. Hinata stood next to her friend as she read it, only for it to say, for you, hope you like, along with an address. Naruto-kun, this address is. It's my parents' home. So departing for the address, the pair arrived as Naruto, hesitant at first, opened the door. Going inside, everything was a bit dusty with some of the furniture blanketed. Looking around for a bit, Naruto's attention was soon drawn to a small desk with a picture on it. Following closely behind, Hinata saw the picture as it had Minato and Kushina on both sides with her friend standing in between them. Naruto gave a small smile to this as he opened the drawer to find a blank piece of paper in it. Picking it up, writing began to appear on it as a message started to emerge. What does it say? It seems this place is my home now. Dad set up a few things just for me and told me that he wrote a new manual for this watch hidden away in the house somewhere. Are you going to be alright? Hinata asked as she took his hand. Yeah, sounding a bit more cheerful now, it's going to be alright now, looking to the picture of his parents. It's going to be alright. Hinata gave a nod to this. Let's get cleaning then. Namikaze residence, 3 days later. It was a lot of work, but the pair managed to get everything in relatively good condition. Of course they could have asked help from their teammates. But they wanted to avoid the many questions that would have popped up, namely of how he managed to afford the house. Didn't he know it belonged to the fourth Hokage? Or even in the off chance, why was there a picture of them with him in it? So this being the case, they worked alone. Although it was fine by them as it meant more quality time between them. However, it would soon be disturbed by a knock at the door. Were you expecting guests? As Hinata stopped her dusting to look at the front door. No, as Naruto gave a confused expression. I shouldn't be expecting anyone. No one should know I'm here. Slowly the pair cautiously made their way to the door. Opening the door, they were surprised to see who it was. Sasuke. The young Uchiha in question looked rather disgruntled and almost ragged, as if something was on his mind. But was interrupted as the emo grabbed him roughly by the shirt as he looked face to face with him. You're going to use your watch, he said venomously. You're going to take me back and help me stop the Uchiha massacre.
That's it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on my other social media accounts. Anime God here, and I'm signing off.